Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm sorry for the massively overdue review. I did have it filmed for those of you who keep track of my community tabs. Not that I have very many up there, but the ones that I do have, you'll know that I did have this filmed. I did upload it, and then when I was replaying the video, it was unusable and I don't know enough about the tech stuff to salvage it, so I ended up not being able to use it. And this was found out day before my birthday, and I just didn't have the chance to refilm everything and do it all before my birthday. So it's the day after my birthday, and we're getting the refilming done. So that said, we are going to do a different format this time. So I'm going to do one review for 3 stories that is a non-spoiler review in this video. The next video is going to be a review for the same 3 stories, but it's going to be a mega spoiler review, possibly an epic rant. I don't know. My distaste for many of the characters in the series really knows no bounds. There's only one book in my history of reading that I've ever given a full-on negative review on. And that went so far as I put a scathing review on Amazon as well, which I never do. I don't believe in doing that if I can avoid it. And I'm not going to say it's quite that level of pissed off for me, but it's pretty freaking close. So that said, let's get into it. This is the Splintered Hearts series by Nicola Jane, and it revolves around the Hammers MC. So I'm going to give you a blanket trigger warning for all 3 of the books. They're the first 3 of these series. I do not intend to read the rest of the series. I don't feel like subjecting myself to that. And it's nothing against the author. The author did a pretty good job writing the story. It's just the characters I didn't care for, which is something that she did address in a note before the opening scene for Cooper. So, book trigger warnings, sorry. We have sexual assault, kidnapping, dubious consent. I would argue it's more non-con. Cheating, other woman drama, references to drug abuse, drug overdose, neglected child, and general assholery from 98% of the characters. So book 1 is Cooper. It is the story of Cooper and Mila. Cooper is the prize of the Hammers MC, and Mila is a nanny whose recent post has ended, and she is attempting to find a new post. Her best friend happens to work at a bar owned by the Hammers MC and mentioned that they may be in need of a nanny, as Cooper has recently gained custody of his nephew because his sister had passed. I believe it was of a drug overdose. And you have this child who I would argue is probably the only likable character in the series. No, Brooke is likable. One of only 2 likable characters in the series. So Mila goes to talk to Cooper and see if she can have the job. And at first Cooper tells her no, and she doesn't know why. The nephew comes in, goes directly to her. He hasn't gone to anybody willingly in the amount of time that he's been there. I guess it's been like weeks. So reluctantly, Cooper hires her. And you would think the general antagonism from Cooper to Mila would at least lessen, because at this point she is taking care of his nephew. He claims he cares about his nephew. He claims that he wants what's best. But the assholery from Cooper to Mila just gets worse with every single scene. He becomes more mean-hearted, more hateful, throws things in her face that really has no business getting thrown in her face. He's just not likable. Like, from the get-go, I never see any redeeming qualities of him. And Mila is engaged. Obviously, because it's Cooper and Mila's story, there are things that come around that cause an end to that relationship. Eventually, Cooper and Mila fall in love. I'm using air quotes here. And they're getting ready to get married. And a blast from Cooper's past comes. And it's one that, like, in the moment, you're like, I can understand why this would throw this dude for a loop, right? It makes total sense. And even to an extent, some of what happens in the aftermath, you're like, I don't like it. I think it's kind of dick, but I get it. And then that passes, and he realizes, oh, I really loved Mila, but, you know, I threw her away, and I don't know how I'm going to win her back, and blah, 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 blah. And then he disappears. And I know this is a non-spoiler version, but I have to throw in the fact that he disappears for a little while. And the general assholery continues on his part. Mila finds out about some of the general assholery on his part. And by the end of, eventually they find their way back to each other. And then she is abducted. And it is tied to Cooper and things from his past. Not something he set up, but it is tied to something from his past. And through the entirety of the book, the entirety of this book, I'm thinking, shit, I don't know what's worse. The fact that he's such an asshole to her for no apparent reason, or the fact that she never fucking walks out the door. She, as characters go, probably my most disliked characters out of any book I've ever read. Ever. Or at least thus far. Cooper has a few sad scenes where you're like, oh, I'd almost feel bad for you if I didn't know you were such an epic asshole and a dick. And really, nothing that he's been through seems to have taught him a lesson on how to treat people. And I don't feel like he's made enough progress mentally or emotionally to enter into a relationship and have it be happy and healthy. Ever. Like, you have to do the work. You can't just ignore things and expect things to get better. That's not how it works. And Mila is so desperate to be loved after her ex that I kind of feel like between that and the sporadic moments of kindness from Cooper while on the whole treating her so badly, I'm like, to me, it reads more like an epic rebound mixed with Stockholm Syndrome. And there's really no other way I can put that. There's really not. She's needy and he's an asshole. That's it. That's the defining characteristics of these people. Period. Throughout their story, you have bits of another couple, which is our next couple, happening that sets up the groundwork for their story. So let's get into their epic fuck up of a relationship. And that is the story of Kane and Harper. Harper is Mila's best friend who got her the job as the nanny, and Kane is the VP of the Hammers MC. Now, throughout Cooper and Mila's story, you get these scenes with Kane and Harper. Harper's been kind of panting after Kane for a long time. She's been trying to get his attention, trying to play hard to get, trying to make him jealous, all these things. And he's really just kind of enjoyed having her pant after him and knowing that she's there. Like, whenever I'm ready, she's gonna be there, kind of a deal. And so it's like, okay, not ideal, but you see enough good moments of Kane in the first story with Cooper's nephew, and he does try to be kind of kind to Mila. So you're like, okay, well, this, maybe it'll be a better story. So even though in the previous books and continuing in this book, he has a girlfriend, Ginger, who is pregnant, he is still carrying on with Harper, whom he has also gotten pregnant. And this is all stuff that has come out in the previous story, so it is not a spoiler for this one. Now, the story is better than Cooper and Mila's, but not by much. Throughout the story, you have the continuation of the push and pull between Kane and Harper that we saw in the previous book. However, he is also trying to maintain his relationship with Ginger and prevent Ginger from finding out that Harper is also pregnant with his child. And this whole time, you get this weird feeling that he really, really, really wants to be with Harper, but he has to be with Ginger for some reason. And that's really what kept me going through this story, was I was like, there has to be a reason. Nobody puts up with this crap if there's not. And that is true. And then you also find out why Harper is so okay with being the other woman. Well, maybe not okay with it, but like she can tolerate it. You find out that due to some people in her family growing up, that's something that she kind of grew up with. She kind of sees it as normal. She knows it's not normal, but you know, when you grow up with it, you're kind of desensitized to it, I guess, for lack of a better word. And the part that really pisses me off about it is by the end of the story, you find out why Kane has stayed with Ginger, why Kane was what's the phrase? Just kind of stringing Harper along, knowing that he's hurting her throughout this whole process. And you find out the reason for it, and it makes sense, but at the same time, you're just sitting there thinking, you fucking asshole. You didn't have to necessarily tell everybody and violate Ginger's trust, but you could have told Harper. If you told her, I guarantee you she would have understood. She may not have liked it, but she'd have understood. She'd have stayed by you and waited till the right time. But he didn't do that. And because he didn't do that, he put her in a position where she had to do something that he told her not to do, but she was actually correct to do. And then, even after he found out that the outcome of that was something that Ginger had already planned, and again, I'm being vague here without giving you what the things are, but that's what happens with a non-spoiler review, guys, sorry. But even though he was the one who put Harper in the position where she had to do it, and I'm sorry, as far as I can tell, it is his fault that things deteriorated between him and Harper, because the outcome with Ginger was one that she had explicitly shown to him was going to happen anyway. She had it planned. And even after the fact, he still blamed Harper. That pissed me off so fucking much. And then he turns around and is like, well, I guess we're together. And I'm like, oh my gosh. You are as much of an asshole as Cooper. Throughout, and then towards the end of Kane and Harper's story, towards the end of Cooper and Mila's story, as kind of hinted at through Kane and Harper's story, we have Tanner and Brooke's story, which is the third book. And in previous books, Tanner and Brooke are set up as this like epic couple in the MC. And by epic couple, I mean obsessive. We're not even borderline, it's just obsessive. Brooke is always with Tanner because Tanner doesn't let Brooke out of his sight. And if they're not having sex, then all he does is basically watch her. She's doing things with their phone, she's posting things, and he's just watching her. We're talking Edward Cullen, but more obsessed. So it comes as more of a betrayal when you find out in a previous book, which is why it's not a spoiler for this one, that Tanner cheated on Brooke, or at least he thinks he cheated on Brooke. So their story is a bit different in that Brooke has left Tanner, and Tanner is still following her, stalking her, while trying to figure out how to get her back. Meanwhile, the woman who, surprise, surprise, is pregnant, is constantly in the way, getting money from him, making things difficult for him, all of that. Everybody in the MC is telling Tanner he needs to leave Brooke alone, she's left, blah, blah, blah. Brooke is trying to move forward in life, do the things that she never got to do, she never finished, only to find out she doesn't care about them the same way she did before. So she's trying to find a new purpose. So she's basically trying to be healthy and not being able to do it because Tanner won't leave her alone. And you find out a lot of the things that are thought about Tanner and things that have happened in the past. Like Tanner and this other woman drama is not what you think it is, but it kind of is, but it kind of isn't, because so much of it is perception and so much of it is not. Tanner is the only male character in this series that I actually like. I don't necessarily like some of the decisions that he's made on how he handles things, but he is infinitely more likable than Cooper or Kane ever will be. This is a character that when you're given his backstory, and you see how far he comes in the prologue and all that, or not prologue, but the epilogue, there's progress made. The relationship gets healthier. Maybe not much healthier, but is infinitely better than Cooper's and Mila's or Kane's and Harper's. And Tanner's backstory is worse than Cooper's and definitely worse than Kane's. And thankfully they don't go too in-depth into it. However, it is still pretty disturbing, and it delves into another trigger warning: child abuse and child essay. So there's not really too much more I can tell you about Tanner and Brooke's story. I already did some non-spoiler spoilers in Kane and Harper's because it was really the only way to convey to you, without telling you things in the story, how much of an asshole Kane is, without actually spoiling it. So you're probably more mystified now than you were going into the review. Sorry about that. But that's the only way I can think to handle that one. So overall, the books, like I said before, they're pretty well written. The concepts of the stories are interesting. Some of the heel turns, some of the twists, some of the total surprises. I mean, those are things that if I liked the characters would be epic. But the problem that I have isn't the writing. It's not the storytelling per se. It's just the characters. Because in the first book, I didn't like either of the leads. Second book, I didn't like either of the leads. I liked them a little bit more than the first book. But the entire time, I'm like, neither of you have learned anything from the previous couple, have you? Which is sad, because you've been around them throughout the entirety of the stories. And then the third couple, you like them individually. I still think they're not quite right together, but I think it's one of those codependent relationships where it's just gotten so far that there's really no way for them to function away from each other now. So the only way for them to have a somewhat functioning life is to be together and be obsessed with each other. So again, the story writing, the actual stories are good. The concepts, some of the scenes that are set are good. Even the way she writes the characters are good. The characters themselves are just assholes. That's, I mean, you can write somebody well and still make them an asshole. Let us all remember Joffrey from Game of Thrones. So that's about my perspective in this non-spoiler review, which had some spoilers, obviously. If you are interested in seeing the spoiler/rant review, which will probably be considerably longer than this one, then please look at the next video. I'm going to be filming that one probably later this week. If you decide not to, no offense taken whatsoever. If you liked the series and you liked the characters, please let me know in the comment down below, because I want to know if there's anything I've missed, something I've misinterpreted that maybe might change my perspective a little bit. So, thank you all for joining me for this massively overdue review. I look forward to seeing you all at the next one. Bye.